I'm delighted, of course, to introduce a keynote conversation with Afka Shart. Afka, as Tim said, the Senior Vice President for Global Government Affairs at the technology and communications giant Huawei, based in Shenzhen, China. Afka is responsible for global engagement with international organizations, and she covers topics on sustainability and business ethics. Before joining Huawei in 2020, Afka was regional lead for Europe, Russia, and the Commonwealth of Independent States for the Global System for Mobile Communications, the GSMA. In 2010 to 2012, she served as a Member of Parliament in the Netherlands and was a spokesperson for economic affairs and innovation, technology, and ICT for the People's Party for Freedom and Democracy. So we have a really experienced senior leader with us with a really diverse range of experience to bring to the table. So I'm delighted to welcome Afka. Today, the focus will be on talent development at Huawei. So first, Afka, if I could perhaps ask you to set the scene a little bit. I mean, obviously Huawei is a giant in the communication space, but could you just talk a bit about the size of your talent pool, your footprint? Are you employing people all over the world? Give us a sense of the scale of your role as an employer globally.
Yes, with pleasure. Hi, Phil. Here's Afka from Shenzhen. It's a real big pleasure to be with you all today. And I'm delighted to give you a little bit of the insights of Huawei's, attracting talent all over the world. And I've joined Huawei just a year ago in 2020, and I've been living in Shenzhen, which is a truly wonderful place. And place is one of the topics to discuss today. And I just want to give you some highlights of how our talent pool looks like at Huawei. So we employ almost 200,000 people all across the globe, a little less than that, so 70,000 to be precise. And more than half of it, and that's kind of interesting, are employed by R&D. So that is in total a bit more than 52% of our global workforce. And we also recruit quite a significant amount of people outside of China. So last year only, we recruited 24,000 people outside of China in different, expertise levels. So not only in ICT, but also in law and regulation and in HR and so forth. And we have R&D centers in 58 countries worldwide. We have employees coming from more than 150 countries all over the world. And and I think it's also good to note that we every year recruit approximately 10,000 graduates from all over the world. And 6,000 of them come from the top 200 universities, and the other few thousand people we hire from universities, and that is in total an 800 universities. So that's a stunning amount. And I would also like to give you another number that I think it's quite astonishing, and that is that we have also employed many more masters and doctorates employees over the past 5 years. So, and that is people with a master's degree already consists of 45% of the global workforce of Huawei, and employees with a doctorate degree account for 4%. So, then my last number to give you just a bit of an introduction to the topic today is that we have 63% of the employees working outside of China.
That's really quite a remarkable footprint, really global. I think it's really sobering, and to just remind ourselves how much Huawei contributes to global R&D. Almost 100,000 people producing new knowledge. It's quite remarkable and awe-inspiring. So you mentioned that the theme of this summit is the power of place. You mentioned You're based in Shenzhen. I had the pleasure of visiting Shenzhen several times. I'm absolutely astounded by the extraordinary rapid development of that city. Its role as an absolute global tech hub, the transformation of what was an incredibly rural area into a booming tech center that's really powering the economy across the whole Bay Area, with Hong Kong and Macau as neighbors. Be interesting to sort of explore how important place is to Huawei. You're clearly global. You've got a global footprint. You're hiring people from all over the world. But how much do you see yourself as a Chinese company in Shenzhen, or are you a global company that has roots and just happened to start in Shenzhen? How important is place for Huawei?
Yeah, I find it really an interesting topic to discuss today because indeed Huawei is a global company with footprint in China, and I myself am experiencing that living and working in China in Shenzhen for more than a year now, and great to hear that you have been able to visit Shenzhen as well, because this is really a city of the future and a model city for the world. I think it's not only the Silicon Valley of China, but it's also a model city when it comes to sustainability. All taxis, all buses here are electric. There's a lot of focus, not only in Shenzhen but in the entire Bay Area on innovation, but also on design and on fashion. So it's truly inspiring to be here. And also Shenzhen is one of the fastest growing cities in the world, and it's just amazing to realize that only 30 years ago this city was a small fisher village with only a few hundred people. And if you would just look how Shenzhen is today, that is just amazing. And for me, Shenzhen feels a little bit like a university campus. So you have lots of technology companies, not only Huawei but also many other tech companies. There's always been a sense of competition, a very tough sense of competition here in China. But I think what makes Huawei different from a lot of other tech companies in this area is that we have already been going global since 2000. So around that area, we were, discovering that there was sort of a gap when it comes to technology innovation in areas like in Africa or in the US and in Europe. And we thought that it would be a good idea to discover and explore if we can help, doing some innovation on tech over there. So, and that has been proven quite successful. We came in a little bit late for 2G, but we were successful with the start of 3G in many regions across the world. And I think it really hit off, especially in Europe, with the introduction of 4G. But of course, Shenzhen is our home, is our base, and we do. And I think that you also can see a lot of, the roots of a company, the values of a company, where it comes from. And I think for Huawei, the being rooted in Shenzhen gives a sense of exploration, discovery, ambition, and also making the impossible possible. And that is truly what we take across to every city and a country in the world where we do business.
I have very fond memories of with Tim Savula actually cycling around the city of Shenzhen, marveling at the extraordinary architecture. I'm just wondering, reflecting a bit more on Shenzhen. Obviously, we've Times Higher Education have worked with Sustech, one of the local universities that actually has also been rising rapidly up the rankings this year. You mentioned the sort of Silicon Valley approach, the sort of innovation ecosystem. How important is it that you're in a city that has other tech companies, and of course some outstanding universities, and some international universities have obviously set up branches in Shenzhen? How important is that overall ecosystem to you as an employee? You're huge in your own right. You have outstanding R&D, but in terms of that innovation by osmosis, the porousness of your own campus compared to the surrounding tech infrastructure, the talent infrastructure, is that really important that you are amongst other tech innovators and universities where new knowledge is being created?
Yes, definitely. And I think it's good to realize that Shenzhen is such a vibrant city, and it's also so young. So there's a lot of ambition here in this city. And I think it's also good to note, and I think a lot of people do not realize that there is, and I said that before, there is fierce competition in this area amongst the tech companies. So there's a lot of innovation, and there's a war on talent. So the brightest people getting hired by many different companies. There's a very good ecosystem with good startups and the bigger companies. It's not only the home of Huawei, but also Tencent is here, Alibaba. Well, you name it, and it's in this city, and that is just giving an atmosphere of ambition and exploration and innovation. So I think that is just great, and I think it's also good to note that in Shenzhen, as a very innovative city in China, it's also a test ground for many of our products, but also for sustainability policies here in China, and that has just proven very successful. And I think that's just good to have this testing ground here in Shenzhen to try to reproduce what's going on here also in other cities. I already mentioned that all buses and taxis are electric, but also cash money has completely disappeared in this city. If my phone is dead, which sometimes happens, it's just very hard to pay anywhere with cash. And so the embracing of technology by everybody here in this city is just amazing. So that is just good to see, and I think you've experienced that yourself. And I hope that many people can come to China to see how the future can look like. But that's a little bit what we are living here, and now with the new measures around sustainability and trying to also make Shenzhen one of the model cities for green technology is very promising, and is a test bed for the world.
Yeah, I did notice actually back in, I think it was probably 2018, 2019 when I visited, that it felt the kind of things we're getting used to now, the cashlessness, even cards sometimes are not appropriate because it's all mobile technology,
Yes.
it's all on the
Yeah.
phone, that things that
Yes.
are now completely normal, that's been accelerated through the pandemic, that was already happening in Shenzhen just 2 or 3 years ago. It's remarkable.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I was just wondering with the rise of remote working. Obviously, we're at a remote summit. We're hosting with Toronto. We're based in London. We've got you beaming in from Shenzhen. We've unfortunately not been able to meet face to face, which I still think is valued by certainly in the context of conferences of this nature. But what about employment? People have been working from home for 18 months. Companies are not always thinking about returning people to the office en masse. What's your sense of as digital working expands, as remote working becomes more of an opportunity and more of the norm? Do you think Huawei's own workforce will become more dispersed? Will you be less focused on geographical concentrations and more focused on talent wherever they may be based? Or do you still believe it's important to bring those communities together and into the same space physically?
Yes, well, interestingly, there is in China. It's a very different story. So I've been here for a year, and since I finalized my 2 weeks of quarantine last year September, you just come into a corona-free society where you can go to work, go to school, go to restaurants, fly across the country, go to on a holiday. So it's really a different world, and I had the pleasure to go back to Europe as well this year. So this summer, I've actually only come back last week and did another round of 2 weeks quarantine in a hotel room in Xi'an, and then after that you just you come into a world where there's no COVID, basically. So it's just really different how it is handled here than in the rest from the world. But of course, being a global company and trying to recruit people from all over the world, this has been an enormous factor. And it has its ups and downs. I think the ups have been that more people have been able to come in contact with us, because they have they did not have to fly, or they live in remote areas where they have been able to connect to technology. But it's also a con on many places, especially in many countries across the world. There are still some remote areas where there's no technology at all. So it's hard to keep connected and to get education, but also to connect with future employees. So it's been a hybrid model for us until now. So we have been doing as much as face-to-face recruitment procedures as we could, but of course we also have to take care of our recruitment agents and the graduates that we're trying to recruit, and their health is of the utmost importance. So we have been doing and trying different models, and I think in future we will continue with that.
Absolutely. It's fascinating to see that very different approaches, and obviously the different stages of different nations in terms of COVID, and how quickly we may return to the more normal in-person workplaces, and how much we might permanently shift. So I think that hybrid future, it certainly seems to be on the cards. You mentioned obviously that Huawei is a huge graduate employer, 10,000 graduates a year. I wondered if we could reflect a little bit on the skills that you are looking for, the skills that you most value in terms of when you're searching for recruits. I mean, obviously there's a wide range of roles, but generally speaking, how do you approach talent acquisition in that sense?
Yeah, I think you might be surprised that we're not only recruiting computer science or computer scientists or engineers at Huawei, but we try to recruit talents from all different disciplines, including arts and design and the social sciences. I myself am a political scientist, and so that's been going on for quite a few years already. And we indeed, despite the difficult situation and the challenges that we're currently into, we keep on investing in R&D and in attracting talents, even more so than ever, because we need talents to develop new capabilities and new areas that we think that our growth will come from. And for us, those are the areas around AI, but also autonomous vehicles, smart devices, smart cities, but also smart manufacturing and clouds. So those are the disciplines that we're trying to evolve and develop, and that's what we're looking now for our graduates. But as said, we are equally interested in people coming from different disciplines, because we are less and less interested in the background, but if they have the capabilities and the skills and the social skills to make a difference and to be a hero at Huawei.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I think as people look towards the fourth industrial revolution, and particularly the sort of AI future, they think it's really perhaps skills just in STEM are going to be important. But I guess, as you've highlighted, and as has been highlighted earlier on in this summit, that the humanities and social sciences really come into their own when we're talking about the ethics of AI, the sense of what it means to be human as we move more and more into advanced artificial intelligence, as a lot of careers and jobs are replaced by machines, perhaps the
Yes.
role of arts, humanities, social sciences is still incredibly strong. So it's good to know that a tech and comms company like yourself are still looking for that broader range of skills.
Yes, definitely, because there's not so much regulation in place or not harmonized, and we learn as we go, and
Mm.
there is so much that technology can deliver, and it's very promising to what it can bring to humanity. But we also indeed have to see about the ethical side on AI, and we also there is perhaps some bias in some of the technology, so we also have like competition for female developers for our Harmony operating system that we have just introduced, also to make sure that the apps that we have in our operating system are not too much male focused. So that's also a program that we are currently doing, and for that you need social scientists and policy experts. So that's very interesting to see.
Absolutely, thank you. And you mentioned that you're recruiting from top 200 universities. I'm just wondering if universities and the place that your students or your recruits study are important. Do you use a university rankings as a proxy, or is it a question of saying, look, if we find the right person with the right talent, the right attitude, it really doesn't matter which university they come from? What's your sense of the role of the alma mater in the sense of recruitment decisions? There is a slight risk. I think some companies perhaps over rely on a smaller group of universities and perhaps miss out on wider talent opportunities.
Yes, definitely. And as we attract so many each year, more than 10,000, we do rely a lot on universities that we know well. And I think we're one of the biggest employers of some of the best ranked Chinese universities on your list, but also outside of China, obviously. But we also recruit from universities that are not on your list, and that are from other areas, because we recruit in so many different regions and so many different cities, and we also feel that it's important that we contribute to the local communities and regions as well. So we don't look as much to which university, because it has place is so important, as you say. So also your place of birth, your background, but that should not be like a barrier for your career. So there's so many different elements that we are looking into, and we have very good recruitment criteria in place to pick out the talents that we see. And also recently, I don't know if you've ever heard of our Seeds for the Future program, but that is what we have been doing for the last 10 years with graduates from all over the world, and they have been coming to China to have internships here, but also visits to our campuses here in China. But we also train people and in different countries all over the world. But we just recently opened it up also to young people that have not been at university, because we also believe that you can be talented and have a career at Huawei without a university degree. Although I have to say that most people in this company do have a master's degree.
I was going to ask a bit more about that actually, because there is a lot of conversations in all sorts of parts of the world about the gap between what universities are teaching and what companies need. And
Yeah.
also a conversation about whether companies themselves can just train up younger people and they can skip uni because you can just basically build a really great educational professional development program with younger people. What's the sense there of universities in general? Are they generally delivering the skills that you need, or do you find increasingly that you want to do much more in-house training or develop your own training programs? And then ultimately, I guess you've got examples like Google, for example, with certification and an issue that maybe they're going into the education business themselves, and you can compete with the university in terms of training your own people or training the workforce in the tech sector. What's your sense of the skills gap? How Huawei responds to that?
Yeah, we've been doing that much longer than you might expect. I think we have already been collaborating with universities over the globe, and we have a dedicated program called Huawei's Academy, and that's been quite successful, and have been training hundred thousands of people, and we also give the certification standards, and we have some standard sets for teachers as well. So that's what we have been doing for quite some time now. But we very much believe in partnerships, so we don't do that just by ourselves, but we do that with local universities, and I believe that we do this with over 60 universities worldwide. So so I think it's a collaboration and a partnership. But I was just when preparing for this, I was just looking on LinkedIn. That's where most people try to find jobs after they graduate. And if you would look on Huawei, what kind of jobs you would find, I find it really interesting, because we are looking for AI researchers in so many countries like Canada, Finland, Sweden, and in Russia. But we are also looking currently for software developers in Istanbul, but also chip engineers in Munich, where we have one of our research centers. So it's quite diverse, and all of these jobs were probably not there a few years ago. So it's very important that universities and the private sector, like us, keep pace with helping students, get the right skill sets. And I believe, that in continuous learning, so it doesn't stop when you enter a company like ours. And we have many training on the jobs. We have mentor programs. This is actually something. I have worked in many different companies, but I've never been undergoing and doing trainings myself for so many of my colleagues and employees that we have. So that is really an important factor in Huawei, and that's what we have to do continuously. But as we can see, a chip engineer that we want to hire, or somebody who has an interest in automotive, could be that somebody has developed a fantastic app, when he was 15 or 16, and has already been an expert, and has chosen not to go to university. We're also interested in hiring those kind of talents, who have been proven that they can excel and deliver something just by themselves. So it's a mix, and we believe that with our global footprint and with our scope, and also taking over the role from what you could perhaps see that governments would normally do. I think we're a very attractive employer, and we just want to make sure that as many talents from all over the world want to work with us. And I'm just going to explain that a little bit, because I've been working in tech for so many years, and I've been in government, as you've mentioned before. But I see that private companies are taking more and more over the role from governments when it comes to education, to digital inclusion, for sustainability policy. So it's just very interesting, if you really want to make a difference, to work for the private sector. And also good to note, and perhaps or interesting to see, is that actually when you see on a global scale that companies are trusted more than government leaders these days, or the media. So I think it's also a very fair choice, but also a very good choice if you really want to bring something and excel in society. So yeah, all in all, it's a very big ecosystem and of talents that we want to get in contact with.
And I very much hope, yes, that the rise of remote learning as well, and the widening access to education across the whole world through digital technology, will continue to enrich and widen that data pool. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. The conversation was so interesting, so stimulating. I have more questions to ask, and I'm sure the audience were we're keen, but we've run out of time. So it's all that's left for me to do is just to say thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. It was a really, really helpful exploration into how a giant like Huawei approaches the power of place and approaches talent. So thank you so much for your time. Sending a virtual round of applause from across the world. I'll hand back to the studio. Thank you very much, Afka.